Hey guys, so we are here for our discussion of the book Ram Scion of Ikshvaku. So we did the vote on Instagram, but unfortunately we've gotten a 50%, 50% vote on both the things. So we are just gonna have a normal discussion. I jotted down some questions while I was reading, and I also have some general questions, and I would like to know your viewpoints. So before we begin our discussion, why doesn't everyone introduce themselves? So I'll start. I am Hiya. And yeah. Oh yeah. Interesting fact. I just read the entire book today. Okay.
Hi, I'm Moksha, and I really was, as a kid, obsessed with Ramayana, so this was a fresh perspective.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, my name is Shlok Patel. I'm not really good at reading, these kind of books. I am great at reading comics and manga. So I really wanted to try something new for the first time in my life because
Hi, I'm Vama, and my record of reading one book is in 2.5 days. So here you beat me.
I'm Shreeya. I haven't read the full book yet, so I don't even know much about it. But the synopsis was pretty good. So.
Diya, even I haven't read the full book, but the synopsis helped.
Hi, this is Adhya. I've read the full series.
Good. Like we have a person with perspective and insight into all characters. Okay, fine. So how did you guys find this book? Did you think it was a quick read, or was it something that you went through like over a longer period of time? For me, it was a quick read, obviously, because I read the entire thing today.
I mean, completing a book in one day might seem like a quick read, but if you take more pauses with this book, you would, realize that there are so many underlying things that Amish tried to, highlight.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to see how his interpretation was kind of like, modernized in a certain way. But I would say that, it wasn't a quick read. It did take me about 2 weeks.
Okay, sorry, Moksha, I'll interrupt. So generally the plan wasn't for me to write the questions, but since I read it today, like as I was reading it, I realized it is a very philosophical book. So I ended up having questions. Okay, why is this person like this way? Like I had to reflect, like, is this actually right? Do I agree with it? Like, because when they, like, if you've read the book, you would know when they discuss about ruling in a fair way, they talk about the masculine way and the feminine way. So that definitely required a lot of reflection, but it is a really gripping story, I would say.
I definitely agree to both of you. And as Moksha said, I really love the unique interpretation by the author because it's entirely different from the Ramayana story that I heard growing up. So I felt it was a great aspect.
Also, Ram was a feminist in this. He was talking about equality and all that. So I was a little surprised. I was like, okay.
It's because this is the first part of a series. Here we get to know a bit about Ram, so it's like his side of the story. The more we go into Sita, you get to know like a few more realities about Ram and everything. So but showing Ram as this like unlucky child is something which I never thought about, because I always thought Ram being like the favorite kid, Ram being like the overachiever and everyone's favorite. But this was a very different approach to how Ram was how Ram was seen as this unlucky person, and how he got kind of discriminated for it, even though like it wasn't his fault.
I agree. Like when I only recently heard the entire Ramayana story this year, like we'd met up and you guys told me. So when you told me that, it was like sort of from the perspective of all characters, so even Ravan, so like how you talked about how Ram had sort of chopped off Ravan's sister's nose or something like that. And it sort of showed like why Ravan also felt a certain sense of vengeance that he needed, and it sort of justified his side. But this is, since it's from Ram's perspective, you definitely sympathize with the character a lot. So I think it would be interesting, like how you would, sort of feel about the character or reflect on their behavior as a character once you've read the entire series. So Adya, like the trilogy overall, was it a quick read for you, or did you like go over it over a long time?
I get obsessed with books at the minute I start them. And once I heard that it was a trilogy, I wanted to complete all the 3 books very quickly. I think I completed them a year or 2 ago.
Oh, wow.
It's been some time that I've read it. But I think one distinct memory from, I think Ram was, I think the character of Mantra in the original Ramayana and I think Amisha's Ramayana, it was very different. She was portrayed as a businesswoman here. And there she was just a caretaker of Queen Kaikai. So that was a very different perspective that I saw.
Yeah, here even Sita has a significant role. Like you can properly see her described as a character. She is the prime minister of their their village. And she is opinionated and she has strong views and she's definitely educated and very capable overall.
Like it's very different from like, the conventional narrative of, Sita being this like very having a very calm demeanor.
But when we were talking about Ram and Sita, I sort of chuckled when Ram first met Sita and he actually bowed when it has been previously mentioned, and I was like, full circle.
That was a very like, sweet instance. The like this is very similar to the original plot of the story where Ram and Sita meet first and they're like love at first sight and blah blah blah. But here the way that it's written almost makes you feel like you're imagining two people coming together and having like this meet cute and seeing each other and just
also
being in each other's presence.
Yeah, also I like the fact that they had this shared belief or shared interest, being the ideology of the law, following the law, that brought them together, rather than it just being like a place he wins the contest and he wins Sita. It sort of gave more depth to their relationship and made it more likable, I would feel, rather than just hearing like, oh, he won the contest. And
yeah, exactly. But I really enjoyed when they agreed on something, and I feel shared perspectives and shared knowledge are great in a relationship. And seeing something like that in something mythological, I think it's unique because I've never seen that before.
Okay, so now I have a question I had. Do you think present day, which way is better, the masculine way or the feminine way? Which way do you think would suit? Also, before you answer that, I'm not like, how do you define the masculine way and how do you define the feminine way? Like it has been loosely brought up in the thing. So so someone say first, then I'll tell you my interpretation of it.
Somebody has to speak other than me and Hiya.
Yes, please.
Of course, I'll edit this part out, but koi bolo.
I thought.
I guess I'll say that being a very indecisive person, I need to pay more attention when I'm reading. So I'd have to read the book again before I can say anything.
Masculine, feminine way बहुत discuss thayuं है.
Acha, okay. Are you talking in regular mainstream?
First,
Is it something in the book? Because I haven't
defined what masculine and feminine is according to you. Not masculinity and femininity, masculine and feminine vibes, energy.
No. In the book, it is in feminine. It was described as open to change, and everyone is given choice. And
that is not femininity. Femininity is different.
No, I'm not talking about femininity. I'm talking about the masculine way and the feminine way. Like
Okay.
in the
Okay, got it.
1, 2, 3, don't edit part out. In the book, it talks about the feminine way being something that is, open to change, allows people to choose their own destiny, and sort of is more liberal. Yes, Moksha.
Okay, so for me, I would say that feminine and masculine being like, kind of discussed throughout this book. Um, for me, masculine was generally, being more firm, being more rigid and enforcing changes and, making sure that things are done, I would say, according to me. For feminine approach, I would say that it was more open to change. It was, more accepting and having like, like opinions from everyone and then kind of, implementing those changes.
Yeah.
So for your question, to answer that question, which particular context it would work in today's day, I would honestly say like, feminine, only because um whenever I see like, people around, they just have their own opinions and beliefs, and sometimes, you just want to hear them out first and then like, judge them or then give your own opinions about it. So maybe being more like being more receptive to change is also another thing I would say that the world needs right now, only because having these rigid opinions won't get you anywhere. Having more collaboration, being more vulnerable would, sort of help you build your own community.
So if you remember the book, in the book, at a particular point, Ram is describing how both the issues have certain downfalls. So they had to continually adapt. So in a certain time, when they had the masculine way, it led to a negative outcome, and they had to shift to the feminine way. Like in the masculine way, when the asuras were very brutal to people and had some issues that brought up because the thing was not being executed perfectly, or the system in itself had limitations, so they had to adapt to the feminine way. While now Ram leads towards the masculine way in which he would like to make changes. I believe instead of having one of each, you should try to have a mix of both. Like when you talk about feminine way, now inclusivity is such a vital issue, be it the LGBTQ plus community or just general inclusivity of different type of people with different backgrounds, etc. So I think in those aspects, the feminine way would be more suited. While if you were to see issues like even with COVID now, like the masculine way in certain aspects would, help make the economy or the world like more structured and ensure that things get done. So I think it should be a balance of both rather than just one.
Yeah, definitely. I think a combination would bring about a more fruitful result.
Does anybody have like any other opinions? It's okay if you disagree.
Okay, one thing that while I started reading the book was the like one phrase that I drew a lot of parallels with was Ram Rajya. So while you say Ram Rajya as like this grand word, but like whenever you use the word Ram Rajya, it's like it's something big, it's something beautiful, it's something bold. And on the other hand, I saw Dashrath's kingdom and how it was described, and it was bankrupt and wasn't really kept properly. So I kind of saw like how a person influences the people around them, and how Dashrath, even though he was old and withering away apparently, how he influenced the environment around us, around him, like around his kingdom. And so I would say that as a person, um, the energy and the vibes that you give out is the one that people would receive, and that's how they would, I would say, reciprocate.
Yeah. I agree. Because as a leader, if the leader has sort of lost hope, it becomes difficult for the people he or she may be leading to sort of follow in the suit, right?
I would honestly say the problem of this entire story was probably Dashrath. Like I
Yeah.
don't know why. Like
He gave up hard.
Ravan seems like, for me, Ravan seems like, a very practical person for some
He
reason.
is.
I don't know. And Dashrath seems like the one who is like, more childish in the way that, he
But
deals all of his decision by emotion and not by, properly thinking. Like initially in like the battle that he has with Ravan, there he just acts upon emotion. He's just, feeling this weird hatred for Ravan only because he talked, very harshly with him, or, did not address him properly. And that's
but
how he gets like, very weak battle plan.
Mhm. But Ravan is also very egoistical when you talk about when they went to Sita's
Swayamvar.
Swayamvar. So how his behavior was. He also seems like a very egoistic person. It just at that point of time you see Dashrath, because Ravan was sort of sorted. He knew what he was gonna do, so it was not a big deal to him. And he also in general just gives me a lot of BDE. Yes. And yeah, also like he does seem egoistic, and he seems very ruthless and barbaric in certain sense. Like even when his army,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
right? So I don't know. I think we might get more insight into his character in the third book, because like everyone is the way they are because of some reason. It's just nature versus nurture.
Any other opinions, hot takes?
I guess that's the best part of this entire series for me, is that you get perspectives from different characters because they have their individual books. So it allows us to switch sides and then decide.
Yeah, definitely. Then so Adya, since you've read the 3 books, do you have any insight for us?
I think one thing that I can say for sure is I love Amisha. I'm in awe of him because he puts a new twist to a very old mythological tale in a very new perspective for everybody. It's a very modern perspective that we get to see. That's very beneficial when we sit to think about what could have happened if it were to be today. From Mantra being the wealthiest businesswoman in Ayodhya in Amisha's book, to being somebody who just took care of Kaikai in apparently Valmiki's version of it. It shows us a very good narrative, and parallels with the new book is something we can run. Also, one particular mention is of the architectural details for both, I think, Mithila and Ayodhya, that he's described them so beautifully. You can literally imagine how they would have turned out to be.
Okay, so on that nice note, let's end our discussion. Okay, thank you for participating. We hope to see you again next month, and bye.